How's it going, everyone? Coach Javi here. Welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be a little bit less cinematic and a little bit more educational and informative, so it might not be the most entertaining video, but I thought this was a great opportunity for me to show you guys what our dynamic warm-up looks like for Detroit City Football Club. So this is the warm-up that we do before every game. We've been doing this probably as long as I remember, so in the upcoming season we're probably going to change it, but this is just a fantastic warm-up that I've done with a lot of teams throughout my coaching career, and we've never had any issues. We've never really had any injuries coming from the dynamic warm-up, and I think it's just a great way for everybody to get nice and loose and get their muscles warmed up before we move on into the possession and then the next parts of the warm-up. So let me just give you guys a little breakdown of what our warm-up actually looks like on game days. So the players will go out, they'll start passing the soccer ball around. They'll get about 5 minutes to just kind of run around, feel out the pitch, and just pass the ball with one of their teammates. During these 5 minutes, some players will do some resistance band stuff. Other players will just kind of walk around. Other players will start jogging throughout the pitch and just feeling out different parts. But then after the 5 minutes are over, we're going to go into this dynamic warm-up, and it's completely directed by me. So I lead every single stretch. I tell them what the next stretch is, and I try to switch it up just a little bit so that it keeps them on their toes. It keeps them paying attention to me so that they're focused and they're not just kind of going through the motions, and they know exactly the next stretch, and they can just be talking and not paying attention. So they have to be focused, they have to be listening to what I say, and they have to be following my lead essentially. So the way I set up the field is I usually do 4 sets of cones or 4 lines of cones. Today, because we're showing you this in a practice setting where I'm not actually with the team, but I'm just with a small group of guys, we're just gonna do 2 lines of cones. But usually when it's game day, I set up 4 lines of cones, and I have 4 lines of players because we end up having about 16 to 17 guys doing this dynamic warm-up. The cones are set 5 yards apart, so the total distance is about 15 yards, 3 yards short of the 18, and you'll see why I do 5-yard distances, because in the later stretches or in the later parts of the dynamic warm-up, we're actually going to use the cones as some guides and some markers for some of the stretches. There's different parts to this dynamic warm-up. This is what I found has worked best for my teams. We start off with a light jog, and then we progress into some upper body stretches. So we'll do some arm circles, we'll do some arms alternating up and down, we'll do some body twists, and then after we've gone through the upper body, we'll start going into the legs and the lower body, because obviously that's going to be a little bit more important, especially for field players. Now, just a quick note, our goalkeepers do not do this warm-up. Our goalkeepers are already on their own, getting their own warm-up. Usually they start probably about 5 to 10 minutes before all the field players. The goalkeepers will already be out on the field getting their very own warm-up. So like I said, the main parts of this warm-up are this. We're going to start off with kind of light intensity, just getting them moving. We don't want to start off with a static stretch right away, because static stretching, especially if you're cold, is probably not the best idea. You want to get the body warmed up a little bit doing some dynamic stretching before you do some very, very static stretches, because otherwise players could get injured. So we're going to start off with a light intensity, and then after the light intensity, we're going to actually slow it down a little bit, and we're going to do some stretches that are a little bit slower, not necessarily static. They're still going to be moving, but it's going to be less jogging and more just kind of very basic lunges, calf stretches, quad stretches, things that maybe they take a step and then they do a stretch, they take another step and then do a stretch. And you'll notice after every single stretch that we do, they jog back or they walk back. So they don't do the stretch there and back, they just do it to the far cone, and then they'll jog back and kind of reset for the next one. So after we slow down a bit and do some slower stretches, then I'm going to give the boys about 5 minutes, maybe a little bit less, somewhere in between 3 to 5 minutes to do whatever stretches they want to do on their own, because players have different preferences, different body parts, and different muscles that they might need to stretch out more than others. So in between the slower stretches and then when we speed it up, I want them to do their static stretches, because their legs are already warm, they've already been moving a little bit. Now they can really focus on certain body parts and certain muscle groups. And then after the 3 minutes or 5 minutes that they get to do this, then I'll start speeding it back up again. So the last few stretches are actually going to be a combination of some sprints, some jumps, and some different movements that we're going to speed it up a little bit. At the end of the dynamic warm-up, we're going to basically be finishing off with a few sprints. So that's pretty much the dynamic warm-up, as you guys can see throughout this video. So I'm just gonna shut up, let you guys watch the video. If you guys like these stretches, these are fantastic to do before a game, even before a training session if you want. It's just a really good way of getting the body warmed up, getting the players nice and loose before you head on into some of the ball work or some of the possession or some of the shooting. So that's the warm-up that we do with DCFC. I hope you guys liked this video. I hope it was a little bit more on the educational side, so you got something out of it, and maybe you can do it with your teams, or it just gives you some ideas and some takeaways that you can adapt to your, coaching, your coaching philosophy, and how you warm up for games. So that's it for me talking. Enjoy the video, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Yeah, I messed up. That's what we did. The tryout messed me up.
So I'm gonna put this.